It's good I can't. It does. It's a joint effort.
All right, so we're live on mine.
It's good. All right.
Mike, are we live on yours?
What was the theme?
We are.
Okay, let's have Mike do introductions, ground rules, and then Mike, we've got a full room here in Butte with some new faces that haven't been introduced to each other. So we're going to do a round of introductions here in the conference room too. And then also the folks online that are joining from the stakeholder groups. Good. So take it to you, Mike, and then we'll do a round of introductions.
Okay, great. Mike Hughes with Hughes Collaboration. What I want to do is just remind those members of the community who are here to observe today that that is the role that you will have. So rather than public involvement, this is really about transparency. So you will not have the opportunity to be involved, to ask questions, to post comments, to raise a hand, or to speak during the meeting. So this is an opportunity for you to watch a working session rather than participate in it. For the participants in the meeting, the people who are going to be going through this very long list of updates, I just want to remind you that this meeting is supposed to be a working meeting. So the fact that it is being observed should not alter in any way the work that you are doing. So make sure that you're not speaking to the public, but rather to one another in a working meeting, just as you would if there were no one observing. So with that, I'll hand it over to you and you can do some introductions in the room so that you all know who's there and the public knows who's active in the meeting.
Thanks, Mike. Mackenzie, do you want to start?
I'm Mackenzie Meter with EPA.
I'm Charles Van Otten. I'm also with the EPA.
Caroline and Blue, I'm with EPA.
Emma Rott. I'm the remedial project manager, assigned to Butte Priority Soils Operable Unit for EPA.
And Molly Roby, the other RPM assigned to the Butte Priority Soils Operable Unit.
I'm Catherine Jenkins. I'm a community involvement coordinator with EPA.
Tim Homo, I'm a liability manager with Atlantic Richfield, helping Josh with the designs.
Josh Bryson, liability manager, Atlantic Richfield. BPSOU.
Andy White, I'm with Aspect Engineering, supporting Atlantic Richfield with program management and design.
Daryl Reed, DEQ.
I'm Emily Evans. I'm a project manager with Woodard and Curran.
I'm Wilder Byrne. I'm a staff level engineer with Woodard and Curran.
And Scott Bradshaw, a project manager with Woodard and Curran.
Patty Stoy, also with Woodard and Curran.
Karen Halfrich, project manager with Pioneer Technical Services.
Eric Hassler with Butte Operable. Great, that's us in the room. Catherine, do you see any folks online from our stakeholder group? Oh, is Patty Canina on? I think it's up Patty Canina. Goes on.
Yeah, Jim is on.
Jim's on.
And Logan.
Logan Duddy. I don't know if that group.
Do you want me? I can
Yeah.
let them present. You should be able to speak.
Brandon's on then. Jim, Patty, Logan, Cord, Brandon, can you introduce yourselves?
Everybody, I'm Logan Dudding, one of the project managers with DEQ.
I'm Jim Ford. I'm with NRD.
Okay, well, let's dive in to the safety moment. I believe Randy or Corder on. Make them a speaker.
You should be able to already.
Okay. Cord, Randy. I'll repeat what Willie said at some of our construction meetings this week. He was waking up, and actually it happened with Eli this morning, walking out to go to the truck and get these melt events in the afternoons, and it leaves some water on the surface, whether it be asphalt or concrete, and then you get these skips of snow. on top of that. And it results in extremely slippery surface. So even walking out this morning, we have a little bit of a slope from like our patio down onto the asphalt. So I was tall enough to step over it. So even as Eli was walking by, you know, even though he didn't want me to touch him, I still grabbed his coat, you know, so he wouldn't fall. And part of that's, you know, a little bit of poor house maintenance on my part because we got a gutter seam above it. So, you know, and it drips very slowly and it'll ice up right there. So, you know, not only do we watch out for ice, but also probably necessary home repairs. So be careful with the changing conditions. We all know that, you know, springtime in Montana, it's often when we get our majority of our precipitation. We get freezing conditions, thawing conditions. It's very intermittent and sporadic of what you may expect every day. So glad everybody made it safe today that traveled here. Thank you for coming in person. That's good to have a room full of people again. With that, we'll go to Scott with the document tracker.
Oops,
You're good.
one up here.
That's you.
Okay, there we go.
Right. So, touch.
That a good view for everyone?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, great. So this document tracker, the highlights are really meant to look at the documents we've got upcoming about the next 3 months or so. Also highlighting where we're waiting on certain elements. So first one up here is the reclaimed M&M plat. Obviously, we've got a date that's overdue here. I don't know, Josh, we've got anyone like McInulty or Scott Sampson on the line. I think we could probably just.
Yeah, I think in general, we'll do this just for awareness, but we'll focus on the corridor and programmatic stuff. So, you know, Mike and Scott will work that with you. We used to do this combined before Mike came on. All this stuff was under me. Just kind of remnants.
Yeah, so QAPs upcoming here, we did receive agency QAP on the 2024 surface water monitoring in January, and we're targeting submitted for that. The 2023 DSR will be coming out in a couple weeks here. The 2023 surface water data evaluation report will be following that in mid-May. And then for our 2024 groundwater monitoring QAP, we submitted that in November, and we're waiting on agency comments for that.
And I can just provide a quick update. That I think David Chenight had brought up to me because that was one in the transition between Nakia and I that I think had gotten slipped. And Daryl, I think maybe Nakia had maybe sent something to you, but I'll follow up with you to see if you've gotten a chance to look at that too. I think comments were prepared. I just think they did not get sent off. So, and I'm not sure that Daryl's looked at them yet either. So we will follow up on that.
That'd be great. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yep. And let's see. Let's hide the 2023 one since we've got approval now. The 2023 DSR is coming out in April. The evaluation report for groundwater is coming out in May. We do have a groundwater management plan here that we have comments from the agencies dating back from 2021. However, we're a little bit of a holding pattern with this document as some of the groundwater optimization and additional groundwater capture elements get worked out by Stantec. Got a greener cleanups report, quality assurance plan, a construction monitoring QAP, I should say, an O&M plan and materials management plan. These are all site-wide documents. These will shooting for end of April. Those submittals. These were all included as project-specific documents as part of the Grove Gold submittal that went out last Friday. But for all the other corridor projects, it will be submitted as a site-wide and kind of off cycle from all the other design submittals, but roughly correlating to the digging cease. So for Grove Gulch, we've had the submittal last Friday that we're waiting for agency confirmation on that 100% submittal.
Talking with Eric, sounds like you guys have meetings scheduled for. Okay.
Next Monday.
Next month. Met yesterday, I met yesterday at Bolton, and then we meet with the agencies and FEMA and NRC next Monday. Okay. We'll be looking for some time with you tomorrow. Gosh.
Okay. The theme there that Scott ran through was there is going to be a ton of documents coming up. This is going to be a really big year. And, there's with Grove Gulch going in last Friday, we've got these program plans coming in too, and then you take these. So we're really going to have to work together to get through the reviews. There's a lot of stuff coming.
Yeah.
I think to the extent that you can give us like a general lead time, like this is coming next week or in 2 weeks. I mean, obviously you won't know that exactly, but that way we can make sure that we have personnel to support review as in timely manner.
Yeah, I would say, I think I have an outdated version of this tracker.
I can get you guys links.
Oh, that would be
really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got like a live link, so when you update it, it would be updated for us. Yeah, that would be great.
And that's still active for David and Dave and Kurt.
Correct.
All those guys.
Correct.
Yeah, if you could share that with us, that'd be great. Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll do that today.
Okay.
I think they might have lost audio on the phone.
Jamie or Logan, do you guys still have audio on the phone? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That might just be board. I think it might just be board. Yeah. Okay, let's move. I think we've covered Grove Gulch. Just keep going.
Yep, so repository that obviously board, I think some of the dates we've got upcoming here, there's a geochem analysis upcoming, and then the repository recommendation coming as well here. So April geochem, and then July, the recommendation is being targeted for the repository, the haul routes, and the 30% submittal.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
So all of these are kind of stacking on for the next phase, the repository site study with some really focused, let's say really focused, but as focused as it should be, broad enough as it should be to perform detailed evaluations. Starting with geotech, we've got that work plan and QAP in our inboxes, and once we finalize it, we'll get it out. And also some geochemical analysis related to what can, what can't go into the Berkeley pit. And of course, beyond the technical component, there's a legal component as to what kind of waste can go in the pit, whether they're bevel, CERCLA, or RECRA, how it's managed in the long term if a specific molecule gets in there. So, but, to us, I think everybody would probably agree that, repository is a critical path. We're going to be doing our best to manage the schedule. And, when we got the meeting on Thursday, we'll get additional public feedback, comments, we'll integrate that stuff, and then we'll be able to go final repository screening report. And to me, that closes the majority of the work, I guess, as far as like the screening activities, and then we're going to drill down to determine appropriateness, I guess. But, go ahead.
Oh, if you're still going, sorry.
Yeah, I guess the objective here, we kind of worked back from what was it, May 1st?
Yeah.
To begin moving materials. And it's really tight. So that's our goal, begin moving materials from the large project sites May 1st.
Okay, so is that?
2025.
Yeah.
Whenever
I say May, it's at least, 1+ year.
Yeah.
Better get them designs done.
Everyone here knows that they're working 24 hours.
Yeah. Is so the performance geochemical analysis with that date of April, that, I guess, is that just like that's a line just saying in general, those plans will be implemented by April, or that's what is anticipated, those plans will be implemented at that
Well,
time?
that one could be impacted. Well, we do have the data gap quap up here. We do have some limited site data and some assumptions being utilized right now. So that one may lag a little bit, but we want to make sure that model is constructed correctly and it's appropriate for use for this purpose. So that one's effectively still internal. I don't know that 4/17 date is going to hold true, but the geotech got the contractor breathing down my neck, because they've got a schedule for their driller and stuff like that. So hopefully get the financials kind of finalized, signed off on this week, and then they can do the subcontracting. And then we hope to in April, early April.
Where is the geotech outlined on this list?
Geotech.
So this one?
Is it under data gap?
No, it'll be under a separate work plan.
Okay.
So the data gap quap came out, you saw that last Friday for Karen, maybe Thursday. And then the geotech, we'll see if we can get it out this week.
Okay.
The quap that came in from Karen last week, the repository data.
Yes.
That's a real critical piece of everything. So Karen's team's got to get out in the field and get that investigation going, because really that's going to feed into the geochem and then ultimately the cluster.
Could you walk me through what is getting captured under data gap versus geochem versus geotech? Or if that's too big of a question, I can cover what's in the data gap.
Yeah.
If you want me to.
I think that'd be best. That's one.
Yeah.
So the data gap quap, they identified to figure out the repository siting study, we need some more information from the soils at Diggins East, North Side, Buffalo Gulch, and BRW. And that information we're hoping to go out and collect. It's mainly organic matter, content, T-clip, particle size analysis, whole rock analysis, things like that, that just we didn't know we needed back when we were doing our pre-design investigations. This has come to light working on the repository siting and where the dirt's gonna go.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
And the geotech is really focused only on those areas that may be used for solids disposal, dry. So we are retaining the 3 locations at Kelly, mine area C and E, and then several around the pit, including the south ramp above the pit at Shields Avenue repository location, and a few along what would be an alignment of a potential slurry line. So that's just stability, soils information.
Okay. So those will be separate work plans coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, so you got a clap. That one's really critical that we can get mobilized with the drill rig. And then the geotech will give you more insight when we have the distribution letter of like when we request comments by. It's pretty straightforward, a geotech.
Do you want to put that as a line item here, Josh?
We will. Yeah, we can add it later.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, we'll do that. And then maybe after this meeting, we'll redistribute this for now until you've got an active link.
Yeah. So the priority, I mean, we received the data gap quap, so that's the priority for our review right now. And that'll be the priority even if geotech comes in this week as well.
Both.
Yeah,
both.
Yeah.
The geotech should be pretty
Should be easy.
It's some borings.
Yeah.
Some stuff around the pit and some on the slurry. Yeah. And then Karen's is just to support some of the data. Plats are fun to read.
Yep, they sure are.
If we miss any details, we'll kind of cycle back through this too.
Okay.
A lot of this is redundant because we're talking about how do we present the schedule. Maybe we'll just do high level. We'll jump through details. All right, let's go to BG.
How much of this content, as far as explaining kind of the steps of the, what's happening with the investigation, will be presented at the meeting on Thursday?
Just an overview because it's kind of next steps, which is a good comment. I want to focus on what's in the report and what our recommendations are and why, really. And then I think what will be informative to the community is also least hitting on the next steps, a detailed evaluation and high level kind of schedule. Like, we're gonna back to May 1st.
Great. Yeah, so for Buffalo Gulch, targeting until July, this year, submittal for the 95% submittal. Received agency comments, on the 60% submittal, last July. And, we're incorporating those comments as well as advancing, the design to that 95% level. So targeting, July for that. Subdrain pump station, targeting end of this year for a 30% submittal there. Andy, Dare, I think I saw you on the line. Anything to add there?
No, nothing to add. Yes, I'm here. I do have access to the microphone now. So good morning, everybody. Andy Dare, PM for Northside Diggings East and BPSOU Pump Station with Pioneer Technical. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Andy. And for BRW, a lot of lines here. I think Karen, the thing to focus is the June 2024 PDI evaluation report, phase 3, and the upcoming interim demo, phase 2.
So just to be fair to Karen, before we dive into these dates, she's been retasked multiple times to help us with QABs and investigation documents. So Karen, if you're not comfortable with these dates, we'll just say so.
These dates are updated based on.
Updated, okay. But it's not to say that she won't be drug into some more mud. For our kind of critical path items.
I just don't know Karen, she's probably the most important official.
Yeah, no pressure.
Anything to add here, Karen?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good. Moving on to Diggings East. This is another big submittal coming up in mid-April for the 60% submittal there. Andy, Dare, anything to add?
No, mid next month, coming your way.
So our design team does have internal, Andy, Tim, Rich, others are going through it, kind of dotting I's, crossing T's, and his team's done a pretty good job too. So hopefully we hit the state. It's another big one. It's not necessarily longer than Grove Gulch, but it's certainly more complex, more involved.
I would say our design is beat farther than 60% when you look at the construction drawings, but what we really need is you guys to look at the site layout, the excavation, that type of stuff. What you're not going to see is the detailed trade specific construction drawings that will be in an IFC package, like electrical and columns and some of the structural, all that stuff. But we really need your guys' comments and buy-in and on this status that it's at. And in the meantime, while you guys are reviewing it, we're going to continue to advance. We're focused on getting to, basically IFCs on Diggings East and Buffalo Gulch by the end of the year. So making progress on all this other stuff, but the design team's really focused on Diggings East and Buffalo. So.
Sorry, the site-wide documents, those are aligning with Diggings East submit, so like those should all be coming in generally around the same time.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit delayed.
Okay.
I'll include your specifications, which will be important for your team's review in our construction monitoring quality assurance project plan, our CQAP, cleanups report, health and safety plans, things like that.
Okay.
But all the designs have some are elements on it, some are work, so there's no sense in submitting 5 independent sets of specs.
Yep.
So what you'll see is, like with this Diggings East, we're going to submit a program-wide set of tech specs and a program-wide CQAP. They might be slightly delayed a little bit, but we'll call them like 60%. And then we're going to continue to advance things. So ideally, we get some comments and some feedback from you guys, and then we'll submit the 95% of a program specs, program CQAP with the Buffalo Gulch coming in July. So we want to get those program-wide things, advanced. ultimately to approve if we can, and then we don't need to continue to update those. We'll just submit the design packages, you know, for BRW and side tailings and everything that reference those. So.
For groundwater remedy optimization, not sure if I saw Brent or anyone else.
Problems on.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're targeting some work plan and QAPs upcoming here in May. Tom, anything to add?
No, nothing to add right now. That looks pretty close.
Just add some color around the stress test QAP. We've been noodling this for several years now, back to when Mike Bordeaux was still on staff at Pioneer. This is kind of our last season to be able to do a stress test pre-construction work to where everything's completely disrupted and we got groundwater dewatering going on, and hopefully we can do this. This will help us determine some of the chemical capacity of BTL. So effectively what we want to do is bring additional waters in from the Blacktail Creek area where we'll have a hydraulic control, and then also the Butte Reduction Works area where we'll have a hydraulic control. Send those waters to BTL during high flow conditions, so we can see what the system can do as it's designed today. And that'll inform us what optimization may be required at the treatment booms themselves in the future. And I don't think we're going to pursue that isolation test QAP any longer. I think that one will go.
Hydraulic control, Tom, we've got upcoming early May, 30% submittal basis of design. Anything to add there, Tom?
Yeah, that's about right. We're anticipating having the 30% design submitted in May. We're progressing that in parallel with addressing the comments on the PDI, the PDI ER.
Tom. And Northside tailings is it's 60%. We're still targeting end of the year, but
We want to submittal on BRW and Northside tailings this year just to keep advancing them. But those, we wouldn't start construction at Northside tailings for BRW. We want to start at Diggins East and Buffalo Gulch. So those are lagging behind those two.
and then for the ROP, this is really just corresponds to everything above it. Actually, I think we need some cleanup here. But
Yeah, maybe we'll pull those out, put them up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that before I. That's true. And then Copper Mountain, we've got DSR upcoming here in Q2.
Guess what I was just seeing, you know, we just hit you with Grove Gulch. April's gonna be maybe the nastiest month of all submittals. And then we're getting with PRW.
Yeah.
April and May.
February. Good July one.
Did we miss any months without any?
I think so. I think it's just continuous.
So I think the underlying message, what I've seen is, used to just be me on BPSOU. In like McIntyre again, Tim Hilmo in, and then we've also brought additional engineering resources in. It's a byproduct of that. So we're turning out really great. That message is for Carolina. Yeah.
It's a big year, and I mean, we're just gonna have to work together to get through all these documents, and we get through this year, we can all kind of little pat on our back, take a deep breath, you know, that'll buy us some good time to have 2 big projects to be done next year.
I think we're turning on a lot, and we're also, I think, trying to do, you know, we always do this, but first time right, good designs, good specs. And hopefully, you know, we get through, you know, Grove Gulch is in and kind of paved the way, but hopefully we can get Diggins East and then Buffalo Gulch. What you guys are going to see is a lot kind of the same. So, you know, once we kind of get through that, we get through the CQAPs and then we get through the specs, then that'll really help us, I think. So,
Yeah.
okay.
well, we'll touch that up and we'll send a PDF copy around. All right, let's do a high level overview of the schedule. Cause that, you know, we just summarized our future. But yeah, high level Wilder.
Okay, so yeah, this, I guess, to give you guys a little context on what you're seeing, this schedule was developed.
Zoom in again, Emily, for
Yeah, we'll get you zoomed in 2020, I think, right after the consent decree went through. And so there are a few line items in here that you see rolled up, like administrative tasks, financials, things like that, you know, we're not going to go through at every single meeting, but in the Microsoft project version of it, you could go back and look and see those dates. And we just pulled those directly out of the CD. And then up first, right, are all of those site-wide documents. I think we touched on those pretty well, but those were included with like 30% designs as individual, 30 and 60 in some cases as individual documents or placeholders. And now we've recognized the efficiency in combining those amongst the projects.
Yes, we get to zoom.
It's fine. You can just scroll.
I'm squinting.
So does that, if they were submitted at different periods of time, does that mean the agency or EPA has reviewed components of those at a certain time and now they're just getting combined? So it's something that we've seen before, but
You've seen them all in Grove Gulch.
okay, so it's, okay, got it,
And
right.
so we just kind of made sure there, you know, the iterations with Grove Gulch are only specific to Grove Gulch. And we're taking the good content, the applicable content, moving it forward to the program live.
Okay.
And I think you have seen those.
Yeah.
Agencies have seen those documents even with previous Buffalo Gulch submittals.
Okay. That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting, we may need to talk internally about response to comments and how we want to handle that.
Yeah,
They're individual to projects in the past, but looking forward.
well, a lot of it should be similar.
Yeah.
One thing that would be helpful, which I may or may not have said out loud to anybody. I'm so sorry if you've heard it before, but it'd be helpful to have just a summary of like the changes from maybe what was in the Grove Gulch submittal to what is now going to be in the site-wide. If there's like a dramatic change or if there's things that have remained the same, just highlighting those high level for us, just help our expedited review, I think.
We can use the, you know, previous comments in our RTC format in general.
Something like that. Just, yeah, something to highlight. That'd be really helpful.
And then, you know, kind of with the Grove Gulch, we did what's new.
Perfect. Yep.
And then Grove Gulch, 100% final and submitted this past Friday. Sounds like you guys are kind of on your own path forward for getting that reviewed and leave it there. Along with that was the variance request for the surface water standards as an attachment there. Repository, I think we've pretty well talked through. The schedule indicates submitting the final screening report to the agencies mid-April. Another mid-April.
It'll be the second time you've seen them.
Yeah, yes. It's our version of tax season. Yeah.
Make everybody angry.
Yeah, Buffalo Gulch, we are progressing 95% design right now, looking to submit that to the agencies in July. I guess just to give a little bit more detail on that progress. One like upcoming piece of that project is the treatability study for the hydrocarbon impacted soils. We'll be receiving the final results of that over the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, and then you'll see some similarities there and attempts to coordinate between Buffalo Gulch and BRW for the handling of those soils. So yeah, that'll come from Karen and myself.
So that data is going to be used to develop these treatment plans for the hydrocarbon related soils. We have a draft and currently from Jacobs right now.
And all these things feed the materials management plan, waste management, disposal, treatment. It's gonna be a lot to pull together.
Yeah, Buffalo Gulch doesn't have a whole lot of volume for impacted soils. It's about 3,000 cubic yards. Which I think there's quite a bit more at 1,000 at PRW. Yeah. Subdrain, I think we've pretty well talked through there as well. I'm pretty sure we have a submittal to Andy has a submittal to the agencies towards the end of this year for 30%. Karen, do you want to talk BRW?
Sure. So for BRW, we're working on the PDI ER, updating that with our phase 3 data we've collected and hoping to submit that to agencies in June. And then our 60% we're working on, and the goal is to have that to agencies in October this year.
Diggings East, again, I think we've pretty well talked through that one. You'll get to see all the updates. We should be looking at, sorry, Wilder, we should be looking at the 60%, but that's all right. So 60% coming in April. And then BPSOU groundwater remedy. It's okay. Yeah. Sorry, it just keeps moving on my end. I'll just look at your computer. The BPSOU groundwater remedy submitting to the agencies in early July, 30%.
Every month.
Every month. And then the Blacktail Creek groundwater control, so the AR portion of that. The 60% design submittal coming up here in early April. Or no, can you expand that out?
That one's May.
Yeah, okay. So submit to the agencies in May. So we'll make that change before we redistribute the schedule. Well, I guess maybe this is a good option. Is Logan, so Logan's the PM for Blacktail?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, yeah, he's
Interim.
on. Do you want to give us an update on that project?
Yeah, I can supply one. We are just about a week or two away from receiving our PDI evaluation report. We did not need a phase 2. I don't know how much of the work plans that everybody on here had seen, but a geotech phase 2 was planned or a potential. And after our phase 1 and further investigation, we did not need to go to phase 2. Yeah, expecting the PDI ER in a week or two, and the RDWP kind of got bogged down between the two state agencies. So we hopefully will have that and DEQ legal and management review within the next couple weeks and hopefully out the door.
Thanks, Logan. We'll try to get that reflected here in this schedule. Northside tailings, again, probably no submittal there until towards the end of the year. We do still have UR and IR in here, but those, like we said, are just kind of holdovers from previous iterations of these meetings, so we'll skip that. And then Copper Mountain Phase 1 plat DSR, which includes data that's been collected since the beginning of the project, not just in 23. So there's some additional surface water data from that site prior to 2023 that's included in this DSR. So we'll get that out to you guys in Q2, so sometime over the next couple months.
I can take the rest of it. Based on our progress now, we'll be lucky to complete this work kind of by the end of 2030. So we'll have to figure out ways to either fast track or resource load.
all of our teams to accomplish what the community expects from us. So, you know, these are where we're at and kind of a objective look from the team. Hopefully we can find some opportunities to do better than this. So right now, it's mapped out based on durations. We're not finishing the work until 2032, which means we're not operational and functional until 34. With the cracker in 34. And then, you know, we got the 9 to 12 year compliance determination period. And then based on the outcome of that, we begin the compliance monitoring period. So to the extent we can do that, I think everybody in the community would appreciate it. And it'd take a lot of stress off the rest of us too, I think. Okay, so that's document tracker, that's the schedule. I think we'll use the remainder of the time just to kind of go through projects to tie up loose ends. Maybe speak in more detail about anything that the agencies may have on their minds or anything that we may have missed. And then we'll close out the meeting. See, we're about 45 minutes in, so we're doing pretty good on time. I'll share my screen. Okay, Lexington Wetlands, this is not a remedy project. This is not a restoration project. This is part of Richfield's commitment to the community, component of the overall inland use of the Operable Creek Conservation Area. We made good progress on it last year after we mobilized on September 4th or 5th. You know, we're looking for a window of weather to get back out there and begin work. And hopefully we'll tie it up this summer. So really what we have on plan this year is the restroom installation, as well as, you know, some plumbing, electrical, fencing, signage, park furnishings. So, you know, benches, trash receptacles, wayfinding, things like that. Oh, the boardwalk too. And then, you know, we should be pretty well done. Right now, we've got some middles in as far as the boardwalk. We're trying to finalize those. And also looking on final review and submittal of the precast restroom, which we'll put a page on. And so all the elements that people will be able to see at Lexington Wetlands are exactly representative of what they'll see for the land use of the Remedial Operable Creek Conservation Area project sites. So it's a good one to get under our belt and provide an opportunity for, you know, the community to see what's intended for the remainder of the corridor.
I think we had some feedback that we want to be clear that's not an EPA project.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, not remedy, not restoration.
Right.
Atlantic Richfield. In conjunction with Superfund.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Heat reduction works, interim demolition activities. We began this work prior to Christmas. And how we started was a kind of productivity test, we called it, so we could set a unit rate with our contractor. We really didn't know how difficult the slag would be to demolish. Bosley Excavating brought in a pretty substantial piece of equipment and a hydraulic hammer. And I'd say it went pretty well, both on concrete and slag wall. We've effectively completed elements of the phase 1 activities and hauled out all that material off site. I think when people go down there that maybe haven't seen the site in a while versus seeing it today, we notice a pretty dramatic change, being that the manganese ore bins are gone, the diesel tank is gone, and much of the slag wall is gone. Unfortunately, we did have an error where we performed demolition outside of the boundary illustrated in the freeze-out. So we've been working that with both the County Historic Preservation Officer, BSB, and EPA to make a determination of what the corrective action will be. We've had some pretty honest discussions with our general contractor and our construction contractor, if you will. We do have some internal documentation floating around that we'll look to finalize. And then, of course, we have our inspection today to go look at it with Kate and this group in here. So looking forward to putting a bow on that and having it complete and put behind us so we can continue to make good progress on the work that was required and not any ancillary work that's not required. Any questions on heat reduction works from the?
No, Mike's put in the chat though, just to make sure that we're explaining acronyms or just like saying them out.
Yeah. Believe me, the folks on the phone are getting up to speed with acronyms by now. Will do. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the reminder.
Casey Street water line, I'll cover this quickly, and Andy, if you have any additions or anybody from the Jacobs team has any additions, please let us know. Andy Dare, our engineer record stamping engineer, has been working with the New Public Works Water Division, mapping out this work, seeing what we need to do. The contractor has signed on their subcontractor. I believe it's now on the sand and gravel. It used to be H&H. It's done a ton of water line around. We're looking to get out there in late April, potentially May, begin the work. So as a component of that, we'll need to make sure we have all appropriate temporary service connections, notify the public, the residents that will be impacted. There will also be some road closures as we, replace the water main, construct that loop, and mill and then repave the road on Casey Street. So we'll continue to work that with Mark Neary, Eric Hassler, and their groups, our contractors, and excited to get that one out of the way. And for folks on the phone that don't know why we're doing Casey Street, the 20-inch water main that goes underneath Diggins East and Northside Tailings is effectively going to be intercepted by the basins. So it would be obsolete. So we have to provide alternate service to the area of Utah Street residents. Andy, any additions?
No, I think you covered it well, Josh. Thanks.
Yeah, same here, Josh.
Thanks, Gordon. Grove Gulch. First of all, my appreciation to the team and the hard work that went into getting that. We had some time to do a little additional QA review, and you guys saw that the email hit your inboxes late Friday night. So, we're pretty confident in this middle, and we understand that there's additional meetings to be had regarding the no rise and encroachment evaluation. We look forward to hearing back on that. We did put out quite a few polls to try to expedite the work so we can. Contractors expressed to me that we can complete the work this year if we get to work. And I think we should all have that common goal. So whatever we can do as far as the review process to get them in the field as soon as practical would be great to get another project under our belts. So we have already begun materials procurement activities for some of the long lead items in anticipation of approval. We've got the construction kickoff meeting, rollout. We've got the freeze-out review, freeze-out checklist review, poll out. I think I set one fixed meeting. I can't remember which one now. Oh, submittal review. To where our engineering teams can get together and what are we missing on these pre-mob submittals effectively. So, Dave, Andy, the Jacobs team, Rich, have a good working relationship with them, iron it out and get those all finalized so we can get to work.
Yeah, Jacobs has begun pulling together those pre-mob submittals, and I did talk to Dave and Richfield about that yesterday, so I think we're in together to get those going.
That sounds good. Yeah, I know Dave tonight is on vacation this week, so we weren't anticipating to receive it on Friday night, so I think it was a bit of a shock to the CDM team to see that too. But I touched base with them as well yesterday, and they're disseminating the information to people who need to start their review, and we're getting started on it as soon as we can. So
Dave Swanson's going to be in Florida.
Yeah.
He's just going to Oklahoma.
Yeah. We got vacations happening like crazy as soon as all of this is landed too. So
Spring break.
yeah.
Maybe note that.
Yeah. But I think, Josh, with the meetings that you sent out, that I'll just have to make sure it aligns too with CDM's team who is on and off on their vacation. So yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of juggling act.
Yep, that's what
and to be honest, that most of those meetings are for you.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and nice to have support on that too from them who have helped do it. So
we wouldn't survive without our teams.
Yeah.
Repository, we talked about this a little bit.
Josh.
Yeah.
This is Jim. Can I just say something really quick about Grove Gulch?
Please.
Okay. So I just wanted to remind, in early October the 11th, NRDP sent design comments on the 95% to EPA. And these were both a combination of legal comments and technical concerns. And although we met with EPA on I think it was December 21st, primarily about confirmation sampling and compliance with the legal requirements of the CND, we don't feel our comments were addressed. So again, we're asking EPA for a written response on our October 11th concerns.
I think I can interject because Jim, you haven't seen the new design package and Emma hasn't had the opportunity to review it either with her teams. From our perspective, we're good. But we look forward to that discussion, and really that's the intent of the freeze-out checklist meeting from my perspective. So we've reviewed it again and again and again. We feel we've more than met the intent of the freeze-out documents with this latest iteration, but we look forward to the conversation as long as it doesn't obstruct progress unnecessarily.
Yeah, we're certainly not, we're not trying to do that at all, Josh. We're actually, I think what we're trying to do is help expedite things. I think that'd be good. I think I think you mentioned it earlier, maybe highlighting so we don't have to go through the whole design package again, maybe just, you know, what changed between 95% and 100, which would certainly help our review. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's all in, you'll see that all in the cover letter, and then with the freeze-out checklist attached to the cover letter, and then there's also the RTCs that are attached to that electronic. So the cover letter is electronically within the file system. You'll see it as one of the first PDF attachments that's not within a subfolder.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, obviously I haven't downloaded it, or anybody here I don't think has downloaded it. I mean, we do, and again, I'm not going to overwork this point. We do, you know, some of our concerns were legal in nature, and we feel like need to be addressed there. But you know, we wholly support moving all the projects along.
That's good to hear. Oh, sorry, I was going to blow right over repository. Any more?
Yeah. So Jim, thank you for those comments. This is Carolina with EPA. On EPA's behalf, and just in response to that, EPA feels as if we have been responsive and we have provided feedback on your comments. We incorporated what we agreed with, and we had discussions about what we did not include. And for the legal nature of some of your comments, that we've also had discussions about those, and we will not be providing written responses. And we would like to move forward with the meetings that are being scheduled at this time. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to repository. We touched on this a little bit, and of course, this is spoke to it as our critical path, and it's also, you know, one of the you know, predominant topics in the community that the community is interested in. So I did submit the repository screening report to the repository site and study committee a few weeks ago. I can't remember the exact date, and you know, it's pretty short, to be honest, with a lot of attachments. But I think, you know, in general, we expressed the outcome, which I think is important. And just to reiterate that now for folks on the phone, you know, we're trying to maintain as much flexibility within the process right now, not to screen something out that we may want to go back to in the future. So when people do see the report, they'll see that our preferred location is the Berkeley pit, of course, contingent on, you know, some of the administrative questions of the usability of the pit for BPSOU wastes or other wastes that may be co-located or commingled with the BPSOU waste. We retained the Butte Mine Waste Repository as an already approved repository. To reiterate some of our concerns with overwhelming the Butte Mine Waste Repository, it's a really critical component to ongoing success of our residential metals abatement program. Our, you know, individual developers, private contractors, and developers in the community that utilize it as a resource. So by no means would we ever come to the point where we wanted to put more than is absolutely necessary at the Butte Mine Waste Repository. I think shares those sentiments. But you can share. Multitasking and should not be. And then for the folks on the phone, we did retain the Kelly mine areas, but of course we've committed to not utilize portions of subarea A identified as Dublin Gulch, and we've committed to not to utilize subarea D for Dell, which is most proximate to the Centerville community. When we perform our detailed investigations, we're solely going to focus on C and E. In the event we need more space if the Berkeley pit doesn't work out. Until we know this final balance of where we can put materials and where we can't completely commit to scrubbing everything off the table. And the final location as a potential is what we've identified as the Shields Avenue repository. Shields Avenue repository is located between our polishing plant and Montana Resources office on current property, on property currently owned by Montana Resources. Of course, that'll be one of the components of our geotech investigation, get some more data on that to see if it's suitable. And with our materials balance, maybe it's necessary, maybe it's not, so.
And I think in regards to the flexibility comment that E shouldn't be completely dropped off, just last, worst case scenario, have D still available through the process. We've heard through the Centerville neighborhood committee that they're not opposed, but individuals are. But I think, just based off of volumes and things like that, that D should still be an option, but a worst case scenario type option.
So with that, that's, good comment to have now before we issue the final screening report. Thanks, Eric. So, kind of the next components after we finalize this repository screening report is moving on to the detailed evaluations, which will support, both technical and administrative legal selection of a final repository or repository locations, multiple locations. Kind of breezed over the geotechnical evaluation that's really related to stability of the C and E areas, because there's overburden shrubs up there. We want to make sure we get down to bedrock to know what we're working with as far as stability. Geochemical evaluation. This is something for geochemists to talk about, and probably not anybody in this room. But, we've got some people looking at it due to concerns about placement of organics and other materials in the pit and what that may mean as far as suitability or compatibility of different waste streams intermixing there. So look forward to continue to advance that. And like I said earlier, that one will follow the geotechnical by quite some time, I think. So we kind of resolve, refine our approach, scope of work for our subcontractors, our consultants, and move it to an area that we're kind of comfortable. Additional data quap that Karen discussed is input to that quite a bit.
Okay.
So those organics, originally we didn't believe we were going to pit. Of course, our responsiveness and the repository study brought it back. Now, we need more data because we didn't design for that, if you will, during our initial pre-design investigation work plans and quap. So now we're going to get that organics data. We're also getting data that'll help us determine for the municipal waste and debris that is committed to going, that is in the consent decree, will go to the ESB's municipal landfill, making sure that we're able to meet their acceptance criteria too, with any commingled soils, I would say. Anything else in that quote? Yeah, that's the gist of it. And then Emma, we've talked about comparative analysis. And just for folks on the phone, EPA is performing an evaluation of whether or not we can utilize the Berkeley pit, or what kind of change it is. Is it significant change? Is it an ESD? Is it a minor mod? And we have some, one component of the inputs to that is the comparative cost analysis of what does this change mean in dollars versus the original 2006 ROD or 2020 ROD amendment. So our team's working on that. Mark Meyer and answer for it.
Yeah, and I'll just say too that's a comparative analysis for all locations that were retained for the screening report. So that basically, because ultimately, whatever the final location or locations that are selected out of the repository siting committee, EPA is going to have to take that when we agree with it and then memorialize it through a change to the decision documents that we have. So
what about the mine waste repository that's already approved?
That you're right. Sorry. Yes. No. Yeah. You're correct there.
So it sounds to me like for anyone that we want to propose to be included in our final recommendation, we'll need the cost. Okay. So.
Because that's what we'll have to look at, right? Is when we determine what kind of change this is to our decision, we are looking at the change in cost, performance, and scope. So we'll have to look at that for all.
Scope. That's necessary.
Well, I think we have generally enough information, but I think I wrote it too in some of those comments on just the screening report that when we get past the screening phase and we get into the final evaluation, I guess I was not aware or part of the conversations before now to understand like what was talked about, what was going into that final evaluation. My assumption would be that that is part of that final evaluation and just talking about like what does the performance of this look like? Is it feasible? Kind of like obviously not doing a feasibility study for all of these, but pulling information that's feasibility study-esque to say, oh, this can happen and here's why. And here's the scope of how it's going to happen. Because I mean, if that information isn't outlined, then I don't think we would have the confidence to know, like if, let's say it is the Berkeley pit, but we don't have the information to know if that actually can happen, then we wouldn't want to memorialize saying this will happen. We need to know how it's going to happen and understand the performance of that. So
But really the performance of the repository, we're not talking, because the remedy is effectively unchanged from the consent decree of the freestyle, right? We're only focused on performance of either, this is called a dry repository or a wet closure.
But the way that we understand it, the next phase of this screening process really gets into those topics anyway. So, we're just working through the process that was already outlined and decided.
Thank you.
This all feeds to, we need that repository selected September, October. I mean, this is when it's going to feed into that. So all this data being collected now is going to feed into that final recommendation.
Right.
They have to have that.
Right. And then after the recommendation report, it has to be memorialized in our decision documents to use that location too. So it's the other step that we'll have to work through after all of this. So yeah. So the more information we have up front, the easier it'll be for us to both help inform how we're going to memorialize that. And so, yeah, I think that's when we're working through this process, more information that you provide everyone throughout the process, it'll help expedite our process to put that in some sort of record of decision change.
Okay. Maybe we'll have working meeting to map out what that looks like in your mind as far as what do we need for scope?
Okay.
Is it just simply scope is what we proposing a change in location? But performance, I can see being quite different, right? Especially when, there's water in the Berkeley pit that's in the mine cycle and been through remedy.
Yeah, and like I think other components with that is like scope could also include like, well, if you're proposing to do something on MR's property, what does the scope look like of coordinating with them in perpetuity to use that property, or like making sure you have access to that area? How does it work with the ARRs that are in place? So lots of components into this that'll have to be, when you look at the record of decision guidance for EPA, it really does outline like these are the considerations that you have to take into account to decide what kind of change. So that's the information that we'll need to determine that.
Yeah, the sooner we can map it out to see what kind of resources we can accomplish that, the better. Last conversation we had, I thought we were really focused on cost, performance. I guess we do have an internal ARRs evaluation going on just for our comfort level to see how we're sitting there. Performance. Let's dive into that more when we get a chance.
Were there conversations previously about what was going to go into the final report, or like was that going to be focused on the data gap, geotech, geochem to inform what the final?
Well, there's a recommendations report that's based on the kind of structure of the repository siting study, and then there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, I think, outside the purview of the repository siting study committee, including like legal and maybe even performance and scope cost, if you will. To me, it's this, the committee's selecting the location based on the information we provide to them. And the SDs will or will not agree with those recommendations. And eventually the SDs will provide recommendations to you for consideration and approval. I think that's the step where we may disjoint this cost evaluation, performance evaluation, and scope evaluation from the committee, just to hammer through that once we're comfortable with zone difference for the recommended repository locations.
I agree with that approach. I think if we get into to the details of scope, cost and performance. That's beyond what the scope of the committee was for. It was to determine a location that was palatable to the community, not getting into the technical aspects and legal aspects of what it takes to cite a repository.
Yeah, okay, let me think on that more, because I guess I think there's still a component too of the evaluation of whether or not it can work needs to happen, right? And that needs to be memorialized somehow. And I guess that's what I thought was coming out of the final report or the recommendation report, was that like that information was provided to then make the recommendation. But I can understand too that getting into really detailed analysis might be difficult at that phase as well. So
It's having to reconvene the committee if none of the recommendations are palatable, if you will, or don't.
Sure.
fit the scope of performance or cost criteria. But other than that, I do feel that's getting out of the bailiwick of this particular committee.
Okay.
Just behind it.
Yeah, I mean, we can make some attachments and things. Like AR's analysis, it's just where are those appropriate to memorialize?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know that we need one legal AR's analysis from the settling defendants attached to the product of a public committee.
Right, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, let me think more on that, and we can reconvene and talk about how we see the.
Yeah, we're seeing all this like cross pollination with all these documents, like where do you put stuff?
Right.
Is it in the materials management plan, for
Right.
example, where we can, define the acceptance criteria for the, maybe that's also. We have legal acceptance criteria or legal documentation, AR's analysis for the materials management plan for appropriateness. Which is RSS is an input to the materials management plan as well. Maybe because that's no independence submittal outside the committee, maybe that's a better place to kind of tie everything together, because that's really the question: what do you do with this waste, right? And that all comes together in the materials management plan.
That could be a good spot for it. We're already discussing where each stream is going to be going. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah, can you put it there also?
Yeah.
As a place to answer that.
Yeah. Acceptance criteria will include there, everything is going to be answered from our detailed evaluation, geotech, geochemical. And then we'll fine tune that, and that would be a good spot to memorialize.
Okay.
And then references in the, the final recommendations report.
Yeah, let's keep talking about that, because I don't know that I know enough about the materials management plan at this point to be like, yeah, I love that idea. So let me think more on that. So I think let's keep talking about that as we move into these next steps.
No, this is good.
And get concurrence from
our foundation, and eventually we're gonna.
Right. Yeah. Make sure that we all understand the process that was defined back in 2020 in the same way. I think that's what's we were talking about.
Other locations, I just put these on here to some extent to talk about what we're planning to move through in the repository screening study. But also to remind folks that, there are multiple waste streams that may or may not be suitable for any particular location. So whether that be municipal solid waste, Diggins East, hydrocarbon contaminated materials, or if we run into some, hazardous waste somewhere for some reason, there's going to be multiple waste streams from these project sites, including oversized material, or if we decide or are able to go to the pit and we have a slurry system, maybe it can't be managed within that slurry system and has to go by some other means or method to a final disposal location. So I've tried to be transparent about this from day one. We're going to have multiple waste streams that may have to be managed differently at different locations. And on the flip side of that, we're going to have a lot of import material coming to town to backfill these sites. So big project right in the middle of town. Waste transport, talk about here. Slurry evaluation's under the way with the assumption that the Berkeley pit's useful. So, there's some level of risk here to Atlantic Richfield going out and doing these evaluations without knowing, even from a legal perspective, if materials can be put in a certain location. So to the extent we can minimize or reduce our lack of confidence in these locations, it would be great. We are doing work on parallel paths, I guess you could say, slurry the pit falls out of grace, and it's kind of like, well, then what? And we'll just have to be responsive to that, but, you know, we've kind of shifted away from haul roads focus right now to slurry. To try to keep as many roads off the trucks that we can. And kind of determine how we construct that system and what we need for the design of that system, so. But that's where we're at today. That's our preferred methodology, presuming that the Bertha pit can be used. Existing Butte mine waste repository. I wanted to touch on this just a little bit. We've been using it for phase 1 demo. I think in total, we've hauled 13,000 cubic yards up there during phase 1. No incidents, no reports. Really, we did have some soft conditions up top that our teams are up. We had to plug the culvert that was brought up yesterday on the phone. Also, he went and checked it. The downstream end of that has been, you know, kind of infilled, waste and debris. He pulled it the other day and the pond was gone yesterday afternoon. But when things dry out, as things dry out, we'll have better opportunity to address the soft conditions on the road. There were a couple wash points down lower on Ryan Road. It's not related to necessarily road wear, but just simply that there's no gutter or erosion control. So Rosley's going to open up a couple loads in that to kind of help reduce erosion in those areas where we're on the road, and we'll continue to be responsive to the neighbors up there. Did talk to John Reese. I don't know if Eric, you talked to John Reese too, but he was the person that made me aware of it on Thursday or Friday last week, and it was taken care of yesterday.
I have not heard from John, but been made aware. So thank you. On the existing haul route, we should start planning sooner rather than later for the closure of Excelsior Street. It is up for phase 3 of the rebuild project this construction season.
So that'll be, so what's the reach generally all the way up the hill?
I want to say it's antimony to its junction with Walkerville Road. And continuing up past Walkerville Road, but we detour off of Excel onto Walkerville Road, but that stretch from, I believe it's antimony, thereabouts to Walkerville Road will be under construction this summer.
Do you have any idea when they're hoping to load, I guess, after freeze thaw conditions, right?
That's my understanding. As soon as the ground is ready, that as soon as it's in condition that they can start, they'll start.
Kind of, I forgot about that project, but thanks for reminding us. It kind of brings more importance to item C. We've always intended to use the existing haul route, transport growth gulch excavation materials up there. We can get that done prior to their mobilization. I don't see any way we need to, otherwise we're shut down for the summer.
So I guess, I think I may be confused because I thought that haul route had not been approved yet by the agencies.
Haul route's been approved since
06, isn't it what you found, Polly? Excelsior, when you responded to Mr. Barrett?
For the Butte reduction works submittal, it was approved, yeah.
Yeah,
That was what was agreed to in the freesow and through the CD as well, was that the existing haul route would be utilized for Grove Creek.
Well, I think what I've seen in there was that there was images of proposed haul routes, none of which included Excelsior, but that had been approved for Butte reduction works to use Excelsior up as a haul route. But my understanding was that traffic control plans would be submitted for each project in the corridor.
True. So that would be
New
coming
haul
with
route.
pre-load submittals.
Okay.
So you'll see it again for Grove Gulch. Our anticipation is that we'll be able to use for
Got it.
innovation of remedial actions
Okay.
since 2006. And before 2006 with time critical removal actions. So to me, that's a schedule pinch. I don't know if we can reach out to MDT to see if they intend to open it.
This is Butte Bow stretch.
Okay, so we can talk to Mark and see what he has a good idea of that, but I can't remember the total quantity of waste, 1,400, 1,500. Like this. It's not much. So it's not that much. It'll take Brent a week.
Yeah, I think
Get it out there.
it's more like 6,000 cubic yards, Josh, but not much.
Oh, 6,000 out? Okay. So that'll take 3 weeks. Okay, anyway, the final quantities in the design package.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but if we don't get it going before they shut down that road, we're stuck. Hydrocarbon contaminated materials, it's the same. Waste repository, history, water line, if there's any encountered per use of those, excavation, enter, moving of ordinance and commit, we'll go there. And then, you know, what do we do with these remaining oversized clumps of stuff that may not go into a slurry line if we're able to go with it? Upload. Let me stop there. It's a lot of waste to remove. Try to use slurry to the extent we can. Can't use slurry, we have to consider something else. Any follow up on waste transport?
Just looked it up. It was 1,600.
1,600, thanks. That's better than 6,000. Okay. So that, yeah, that could be potentially done in a week's time. Don't want to put too much pressure on the contractor, but. Buffalo Gulch, we covered this. We're looking to get the 95% out in July. I don't know, Tim, if you want well, I think A is pretty important to hit. Just, you know, we never received comments on minutes there. That's 1 through 9. And we just move forward with our design documents. We couldn't wait any longer before we did so. So like Tim said, as we submit documents, we're going to keep working on packages instead of sitting idly and waiting for comments to come in. So
some comments were submitted on a portion of it. Okay, except, but those were not commented on.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And, you know, you'll see the specs again, you'll see the quality assurance plan again. All those plans updated anyway. They'll be in better position anyways. I don't know if there's any value now with trying to conform that.
Okay, yeah, because that was submitted last July?
That comments last July.
Comments in July, okay.
It was submitted in July.
December of 2022.
Sorry.
December of 2022.
Might be fair to kind of map out what we put in our schedule now for review periods. Much compressed, so 30% designs, put a 90-day review period, I believe. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong, for 60% designs, a 60-day review period, 95% designs, the 30-day review period. And that still has us out of schedule, I guess, so.
But I think, a couple meetings ago, I think EPA was gonna look into if they had additional comments and.
Yeah.
If we got them now, it's probably derail us for, you know, because we've advanced it to the 95%. So, I mean, it's probably best for us just to keep on track, get the 95 guys in July. I think moving forward on our 60%, it's really critical. I mean, because 60% is you're kind of doing a lot of the conceptual, big picture stuff, but you don't yet have all the detailed electrical, structural, architectural, communication, all that stuff that takes forever, right? We really need to get together on these 60% designs and make sure we go through them, you know, all the way through so we get all your guys' comments, because there's a lot of effort from 60 to 95, right? At 95, they're basically almost stampable. So when you get Diggings East, when you get BRW this year, when we get Northside tailings, those types of things, we want to make sure we, you know, get comments either on everything or even say, you know, we have no comments, so we have confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are on board with that. We can move forward.
Yeah.
We're not kind of. So.
Right. Understood.
And, you know, depending on how this like review goes on Grove Gulch, if you prefer like on next mills, if we do a pre-presentation versus a post-presentation, let us know.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I mean, like after we submit Diggings East, gladly get through yours and just, you know, and it's not going to be us probably doing very much talking, but get the engineers and whoever's reviewing it on your guys' team together and we can facilitate it, but get that communication, and I think that'll help.
Okay.
Is there a lot? I mean, it's each one of them's an elephant.
Right. An elephant in 30 days.
Actually, less than Grove Gulch.
Yeah.
7. You know what, I guess I said it before, what I consider most important is, are we checking the box on the pre-sale requirements? You know, and then there's a lot of detail, you know, Atlantic Richfield, you know, per the terms of the consent decree and the surface water management plan, we're not going anywhere. You know, if there's more work to do, we're required to do that. We optimize the remedy, we're required to do that. So, you know, for the most part, this is stormwater remedy with a couple items of hydraulic control. You need to allow the opportunity to work, in my mind. You know, I've been frustrated enough with Grove Gulch, just go out there and dig a pond with a V ditch and a head gate that my dad would have had on the lower Madison with a couple checkpoints, you know, really. And we'd see improvement in surface water. And that's our goal, right? We have to remember that we've been in compliance with one exception for base well conditions. One exception. Our problem is with stormwater in this operable unit, and we need to get this remedy in place to see if we can take care of that. That was a quick scroll. This is a new mouse, sorry. Diggins East North Side tailings view reduction works. I'm just gonna, any comments on those? I think you guys saw, you know, really the document tracker covered a lot of these items and the amount of work that's coming. So we are working on an access agreement for Andy at Northside Tailings with UP, so we can get out there and do his remaining redesign investigation, which will feed us 60%. Pretty important. We have proposed some interim work at these locations. We've generally stripped the wells off of these. It seemed like that was contentious to remove the wells at this point, because I think at BRW, we didn't have the PDIER finalized. You know, I think everybody's just, these are massive excavation projects and there's wells that are in the way. I think what's important with the wells, I think Jim kind of inferred this in one of his notes, and if not, he can correct me, but eventually we're going to have final monitoring network for the groundwater remedy. You know, what's going on with groundwater, how's the remedy performing, things like that. And I don't think it looks anything like the smattering shotgun splatter results that we have out there today. So we look forward to moving that forward, kind of under groundwater remedy optimization with an update of the final the proposed groundwater well monitoring network. In addition to the other items that we're working on, which includes you know, optimization of the subdrain, how are different water streams managed, how can we use the model even for design of our construction dewatering. We are in progress of working the leak detection system. Stantec team is, so that's critical component, and I've kind of couched it under groundwater remedy optimization because it's the Stantec team, in addition to the detailed stress test that we kind of discussed earlier. So a lot of moving components of groundwater remedy optimization. Which I stressed to me about that is the work is, it's not required to be completed until 10 years after the record. We'd like to do it all now as efficiently as we can. Where the projects are located, for example, there's no sense in walking out of this and waiting 10 years on the groundwater component. So we'll do it now.
Are those interim work plans, have those been prepared yet?
Utilities, those are just going directly to the utility.
Okay.
Those are like overhead lines and stuff like that.
Okay.
Gas lines.
And the well component to that?
Well, I think we had wells approved by Nakia for at least the 4-bay area, potentially some of the basin area of Buffalo Gulch.
Buffalo Gulch.
David has access to that file. He could bump it to you. We proposed to remove a bunch of wells in the phase 1 activities of the BRW demolition. But we received a comment that the EIR has not been finalized yet, so we redacted those effectively.
Yeah, we only had 10 that we included, which were right near the structures that were going to be demolished for phase 1.
I think you look at the investigation logs of BRW, it looks like a train commission. We're almost done excavating. Blacktail Creek hydraulic control. This is an important item because it needs to proceed, particularly Logan's Blacktail Creek. So we need to have that in place and operational when those sediments are replaced, so we can protect the work, make sure we protect the work that's been completed by the state. So as Logan continues down his path with design, we'll make sure that one's in place and functional, ready to pump water by the time they're done backfilling. Site. Program plans, we talked about that. One thing we didn't cover too much on is the OM&M plan. That's our remedy part in land use, and this can be pretty big and comprehensive. Stantec's taking the lead on that OM&M plan, and I'll work that with Eric, working with Laz. Parks and Rec.
Not 100% certain on that.
Working with the Parks and Rec Department at the county of how those final features are maintained and who does what. But the component that'll be most interesting for you guys is remedy component and the interface of the land use with the remedy. Copper Mountain, DSR coming. Use different words for different sites. DSR coming Q2. I think I saw kind of summarizing our investigation activities of Copper Mountain. So that'll be informative to help us kind of proceed with the conceptual site model of what's going on at Copper Mountain with water. This is Logan's Blacktail Creek. Kind of already touched on it. Logan, if you had any additional detail.
No, I think you're doing just fine. I appreciate you getting your work done before I get down there. Thank you.
We'll do what we can. And we have Remedy restoration that Jim, I don't know if you wanted to cover this.
Yeah, sure, Josh. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I hit the wrong. Got a little quick on me. Going back.
Let me see what you got there. Yeah, so our focus right now on remedy restoration integration is looking at if we can stack our current, or probably more importantly, the going forward groundwater monitoring for that to save some of our limited restoration money left, and then also looking at some further capture of the existing contaminated groundwater associated with the Parrot. And I know Josh's groundwater team has been developing a model. Hopefully that will be the primary tool we can look at what that might look like, or what it could look like, and how it could integrate in with the rest of the groundwater activities. But as we always say, we're always looking for opportunities to integrate remedy and restoration. And I'm sure many of you know that we don't, our restoration funds in Butte are winding down. But every dollar counts for things that we can do to improve the resources in and around Butte. That's it. I think.
How are you doing on yours, Catherine? Just making sure. Okay, I think it's a projector issue, thankfully.
Can anyone hear us on?
If you use yours.
It looks like they get back on. Oh, yeah.
Okay, they're on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
Did you hear us mumbling and stumbling through the entire technical difficulty?
Yeah, par for the course. You're good.
Thanks for the comfort, Andy. Yeah. Jim, I'm sorry. My system may have cut out kind of right at the what sounded like the closing of your statement. Prioritize use of resource dollars.
He unmuted himself.
Yeah. I was just wrapping up. We're always looking for opportunities to combine remedy and restoration activities, although we've got, our pots of money are being wound down. But we're always looking for opportunities. And right now we see our primary priorities are the monitoring and and any additional capture we can do of the highly contaminated groundwater associated with the parrot.
Yeah, with this first one, I'm just, I kind of been resolved to, we're wiping out tons of wells, the data we get today that we had in the past may not be representative of its final network that's installed post remedy for that purpose. So.
Yeah, Josh, and I'd agree. I'd wholeheartedly agree, and that's sort of why we've put a pause on things and not like, I think I committed to set up a meeting earlier, but we're reevaluating what you guys are proposing going forward and seeing how that works with not only our monitoring activities or what wells go away, but we also look at our liability issues, under paragraph 96 and stuff. So we are committed to get back with you, Josh, and try to re-kick off those discussions. But we know right now you've got higher, more important priorities.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, next topic. I'm just checking time. Looks like we've got 28 minutes left in our scheduled time. So we're doing just fine. Community engagement, once we get closer to a construction project, we'll of course reissue those. We talked about Casey Street water line, which is a certainty for happening. I'll work with Andy and our mixture with Canvas, the neighborhood, south, whether it be on PSB social media or Pioneer social media, or flyers and doors is what we generally do. So seems to be well received. So we'll do that for Casey Street work. And then when we get closer to Grove Gulch, we'll do the same for those local residents in addition to postings on electronic media, social media, whatever necessary. That one will work directly with you guys. And then similarly for A Hall route, mostly the Hall route, but A Hall route, that to make sure folks are aware, just like we did on phase one demo.
Yeah. Where, sorry, so you said you put it on Facebook, is that what you just said?
Well, we have done things in the past. I don't want to commit Eric and his team to stuff, but BPSOU.com certainly. We have in the past utilized our suppliers.
We've been utilizing BPSOU.com, BSB's website, and BSB's Facebook page.
Okay, got it.
So,
Do you ever do notices in the paper?
no. That gets into the public hearing aspect of it, and it's not required. So this one, we will be informing Duncan Adams today that the repository signing committee is happening tomorrow night, but
Thursday.
Thursday.
Give us a day.
It's the loss of the day, but it's something that we've got to get our hands wrapped around a little bit better than we have as collectively as all parties moving forward, but.
So something that we have access to is Nextdoor too. So I'm not sure, I know that the community might not be as active on Nextdoor here as is like in Denver or things like that, but that is another option that we can use too.
Well, I think we need to make a determination on what truly is going to be open on a regular basis versus what is going to be termed as working meetings.
Right, I was talking about like construction notice,
Construction notices of,
like
yeah.
road closures.
No, I agree. And BPSOU.com is still quite robust for that update, and we'll just plaster BPSOU.com everywhere. So I think that's where we are going to field all questions and answers going forward through that, and any updates through the construction process, and any inconveniences that the public may have to go through.
Kind of following up, some of this kind of fell off our radar. Some of our resources have been reassigned for tasks, but we do have a story map on BPSOU.com or some link to BPSOU.com to where you can go to a map of you and you can see, as we update it,
Would you put like real-time road closures on it and stuff
that's
like that?
exactly what it does. So it'll include like signage from traffic control plans, like let's say a orange line on the street map where you can say expect construction traffic, or a red line, maybe Casey Street, for example, where you can expect a road closure. So it's all keyed in with like little info bubbles surrounding the corridor project areas. It's pretty useful. We should schedule a meeting with Billy to close that out and then get it published.
That would be
maybe
helpful.
have a walkthrough with you guys as well. If
Yeah.
You're coming on, I mean, I know Dana and Nakia were pretty involved in the early stages. You guys haven't really got to see this website a whole lot at this point.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'd be interested in also like sharing that as a QR code too, around if like that, like on a sign or something, that's easier access to for people who are in the area.
Well, kind of what we heard too is like some folks don't know what a QR code is.
Multiple avenues. Yeah. It might,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it might be helpful too, if at public meetings, we remind each other to like, maybe one of us pulls up bpsou.com or shows people in that capacity too, of like, if I was at home on my computer, this is where I would pull up and here's where you can find that information.
Maybe when we launch the sort of.
Yeah, that would be a good, put it in the newsletter too.
In addition to those, I mean, the Wasley and Jacobs crew did a really good job at Lexington, just going around the community, going around the neighborhood, knocking on doors and talking to them. So, I mean, that's still going to happen too.
I'm not pulling up BPSOU.com and taking on tour today. Meetings, tell Tim you do. Recent meetings, presentations, events, we haven't had any since November, I think. Last open house in Montana Tech, so nothing there to speak to, whether they're successful or not. 3 upcoming, the only one on the docket is for this week, for cluster site study. Committee meeting to present the outcome of the first pass of the RSS process. Get feedback there, finalize that report, get it out as soon as we can. And effectively kick off the second half detailed evaluations. There's a lot going on. A lot of work to be accomplished this year, so we can start work on the major project sites. Spring of next year. Spring is a variable term in Montana, but we set our goals. It's May 1st. Okay. Any comments to the agenda? Any other business before we go to the roundtable?
Get through it.
Okay, well, let's go to EPA, final comments, concerns, anything for the group's awareness. Be working on.
I don't think so. I know this was helpful to walk through all of this as a larger group. Molly and I are gonna have office hours for public, like for community members down here in Butte, starting in April, but
location
next week.
Next week.
Yeah, that is next week.
Yeah, down at Eric's office suite.
Okay.
We'll try it down there for a while, see how it goes, see what kind of response we get. If we need to adjust or change to a different location, we can do that, but we'll let people know as we do that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I think it's really helpful to have that document tracker, and I can use that a lot while we're working through here. And I think just the expectations of timelines, like Molly was saying too, if you have timelines that you are laying out that we need the support meeting to let me know, because I think that's where I can try and leverage what prioritize what our contractors are supporting us on too. So
I think to the extent that you could share, your schedule, that would be great. I don't know if that's like a monthly thing where you could say, here's an updated schedule.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
I don't know if usually we used to publish PDFs in advance and send them out. I don't know if we did that this time or not. We're just kind of getting people back in the cycle,
Yeah.
but.
was this was a monthly meeting previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you had mentioned the turnaround time expectation. I wasn't quick enough to write down all of those, but that'd be helpful if you could summarize that somehow when you are submitting the next thing, like we expect a 30-day or 60 or whatever it is for each of the percentage.
Yeah, generally what we had is like 90 days for conceptual. By content, and really shouldn't overly influence proceeding to a 60%. We're really focused on the freestyle requirements and making sure we're meeting those, whether it be storage volume, excavation extents. That, and then, the details that go into that are incidental to me. So 90 days for 30% just gives you a lot of breathing room in my mind. 60 days for 60, like Jim said, 60 is pretty important because it's really a transition. Making sure everybody's in alignment as far as the content, to ensure we meet those freestyle requirements. And maybe we'll have to do that with 6% submittal and initial review of the freestyle checklist. Because if we wait for alignment till second or third iteration of a 95% or 100% document, we're going backwards. And it's of no use to the remedy and no use to the community. So I think 60% is really what we focus on as far as content management, expectation setting, things like that. In my view.
Yeah, I mean, I would think most of the, are we satisfying the design is going to be in the 30 and 60% discussions. Most of our work is actually from 60 to 90, but that's where the detail engineering and trade specific and really detailed drawings come in. But by then, that's just engineering so we can build it, right? I mean, the concept is really going to be at 60 where we need to be on track. So that's why you get 30 days for a final, but by then we should be.
Yeah, 90, 60, 30.
Okay.
Kind of the inverse of.
Yep, that makes sense. Thanks.
And the opposite of the amount of information you're going to get. 30% is less, right? Then 60% submitted. Then 90%, 95% has everything: drawings, specs, details, everything. So.
And what will help, we'll have those program plans, so you don't have to stress out.
Right.
Thousands of pages. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else? Daryl, Logan, EQ?
I appreciate the new team members and working on this transition. Project managers, I think it's working well. And I'm looking forward to continuing to support this project and getting it going again. I would just caution that there are some outstanding comments from previous versions that hadn't been resolved. And so if they're continuing to be not resolved, that makes it harder for our review. I'm talking specifically like the EVS model.
Yeah. It seems complete and accurate to us and our environmental statisticians, so our environmental modelers. So if we want to get hung up on a statistical model versus just digging out the site beyond groundwater, I guess we can hang up on the details, but I think, it's a pretty simple project. You go out there and you dig a pond that has 1 acre foot of storage and the located waste and waste to the, just around the boundary of that site get removed. I think it might be more critical, what I've heard, when we get the BG, Diggins East North State Tailings. That's where I'm talking. Okay. But yeah, we've reviewed that model on multiple occasions. I think what's important to remember is that all the data we collect is done so under an agency-approved pre-design investigation work plan, agency-approved WAPs. We assume when we get those approvals that it's sufficient. We go out and we produce the PDIERs and they inform our models and our designs. And there should be, there's a difference between the model, right, and the extents of the excavation shown on the drawings quite often. So don't forget to also check the construction drawings versus what a model says.
And typically we're more conservative in our drawings.
And the way I understand it, even with our EVS model for Grove Gulch and Buffalo Gulch, our level of conservative is to the extent that when EPA ran it, you guys came up with a smaller footprint of waste than what we did. So we stack conservatism on conservatism when we do these models. So we have a high level of confidence in the model. And we also have the addition of the excavation services to go beyond that quite often. So, to me, I have a high level of confidence in our products when I hear that when the EPA team and CDM Smith runs the same model with the same inputs, gets a smaller waste footprint than what we accepted on our PDIERs and our construction drawings.
And then when we factor in practical in the field and we get a I'm gonna say, not a straight model boundary and we turn it into something we can build, right? Which typically encompasses more than that, so.
Yeah, thanks for the comment.
What's the additional data point?
That will help. More data in the model helps, sorry.
So is there a response to that comment too somewhere? Or will that be in the next?
Well, that was CC's.
Well, that was a nugget in the documents going around between you and NRD.
Okay.
So we address comments we see from EPA. Can't be chasing stuff down, so.
Okay.
But again, the 100% design of Grove Gulch looks different than 95% integration, so. And then BG is, of course, being updated as we go along.
Daryl, anything more? Logan? Good, Jim and Patty, and then, Doug, you know?
Sorry, Josh, I didn't have anything. I couldn't find my unmute button.
Okay, thanks, Logan. Jim?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that we have. Again, we want to help you move things along, and I think sometimes the most help we can have is get agreement as early as possible on, whatever, whether it's interpretation of the CD or some issues about, removal levels or confirmation sampling on removal. I think the sooner we deal with those sorts of issues, the quicker you guys can get out in the field.
Thanks, Jim. Eric?
Yeah, so I'd like to welcome you guys. I think we have multiple times. I think the transition is working out smoothly at this point in time. I'd just like to throw out 5 parties that are listed underneath the roundtable need to remember that we came to an agreement underneath the consent decree, and we need to figure out how to implement that agreement at this point in time. And we're going to disagree at times, and figuring out resolution is extremely important, but there's also, we're to a point where some hard decisions need to be made. And if not, we're not going to progress. So I'd just like to remind everybody that we all are underneath an agreement. That one document, we agreed to it at that point in time. Now we just need to figure out how to get this implemented effectively and efficiently with the least impacts to our community going forward. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Eric. From my perspective too, it's just time to move forward. Implementation of the projects is not the end all of the remedy, right? That doesn't close the book on the work to be completed. With the surface water management plan, there's requirements of the land Richfield to come back and actually do work. Let's say, for example, the hydraulic control does not work or does not perform to the extent that we thought it would, and we see recontamination of the sediments at Blacktail Creek. We're required to go remove those. Say we see surface water exceedances at our compliance points, and we do a investigation through the diagnostic evaluation. We make a determination that there's additional historic mine waste that's causing those exceedances. We're required to go remove that. So, in my view, we need to give this remedy that we all agreed to the opportunity to work. I know that there's vague sentences in the BPSOU and they bother us all. That's what we've got to work with. But by no means should we consider, the conclusion of Grove Gulch project is not when we say it's constructed. The conclusion of the Grove Gulch project is after ONF, and you can come back to us if we see during, the compliance determination plan that for some reason it's resulting in exceedance of surface water. Now, Grove Gulch isn't going to do that. It's a minor load. I don't remember what percentage. 3%. 3%. And we're building a basin to manage that. So, and we needed to take this from a kind of a step back, make sure we're delivering on the BPSOU and its intent. Try to get rid of some of these ambiguous statements to the point that everybody's happy moving forward implementing the remedy instead of getting hung up on some of these things. hopefully our design packages do that. Tim and his team have been doing a fantastic job, and I think, you know, focusing on 60% versus 95% or 95% resubmittal, or many times we see Grove Gulch, but 60% is definitely the time to do it. Make sure we are aligned as signatories, or we even take a step forward beyond 60% of some of these things.
Well, Josh, this is Jim Ford. I mean, I'm not going to editorialize to that extent, but I will say that part of the consent decree agreement was removal of certain wastes with certain parameters on it. And I think we want to all ensure, and I'm sure you guys do too, want to all ensure that those requirements are met. And I think the sooner we get those details figured out, the better it will be for everybody.
Yeah, you know, Grove Gulch, for example, reviewed the soil logs outside of the boundary of what we're proposing to remove, and it turns out there's no waste in those, no identified waste in those logs. So we think we're set. As far as confirmation sampling, you know, when we're talking about extensive removal through your surface in a polygon, that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for elevations and extents. We're not that interested in confirmation sampling. Just want to get what's done and get it out of there. But we'll have freeze out checklist meeting coming up, kickoff meetings, and then for future projects, these conversations need to be had at 60%. Or sooner. Just about time. I don't know that we're ever going to get away from 2 hours for this thing. I think we've gone 2.5 in the past, but you know, if you guys see any opportunities with this, some of it's redundant, and you know, we can lock in on that you know, document tracker. This is like overwhelming. I mean, and with the schedule, I mean, we could go through, I don't know how many lines are in the schedule.
I think, I mean, I won't speak for Emma, but I think if we were to have those two before, I'd be able to like look through that. Then we could just proceed with kind of the updates that you did, but that's, yep, yeah.
Make sure you always have the month beforehand, like we'll send it out after. I just would
be great.
hate to not get all the information ahead of time that's needed.
Yeah.
Give it an accurate update, and then sometimes we get that information.
Yeah, right.
So it's,
yeah, well, and that's fine. I mean, we could just, if it's like a regular monthly thing where whatever, second Tuesday of the month or whatever, we get that, recognizing that there's probably going to be updates between when we receive it and this meeting, but at least it gives us something to track through. Yeah, that would be helpful.
So we'll do that next time. We'll go really content with document tracker unless there's any outstanding questions, and we'll just go straight to the agenda and let the PMs do it like we've done in the past. You know, take the lead on each section, talk it through, bounce questions, and hopefully shorten the duration a little bit.
Do we have another one of these on the schedule at this point?
No, and I guess that's a question. Do we want to maintain it? What is it? We're the fourth Tuesday. We used to be the first Tuesday of every month. You know, there's no sense of doing the first Tuesday of April at this point.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys want to just maintain it fourth Tuesday of the month, or if you guys want to start walking it back, you know, to the first Tuesday over time. We're kind of impartial. Fourth Tuesday.
I mean, because that'll be a month from now, right? And yeah, I think that works for us. It seems like this worked well with us having the live. I guess we'll maybe check on that. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. No, it seems to work though, I think, and then it'll be recorded. And then we'll get it captioned and posted on our website. So that just process takes a little bit of time, but that's the plan.
It would make sense if this aligned with your every other week down here. So does that align with the fourth Tuesday?
We are on every week right now.
Yeah, every
yes.
week.
Yeah.
Okay, so then.
Yeah, so it does line.
If you want us to schedule more meetings, make sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You can come down to our office hours.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, well, and it also it's continue again, I think about with the pace of the jail.
Okay, so potentially a submittal this week on detailed evaluation for geotech repositories. And then middle of the month, it's going to be full flow on the fire hose. Well, appreciate everybody's time on the phone. So
joined to observe. Thank you for joining. So, good rest of your week, and if you're going on spring break, enjoy that too.
I just had a quick question from some people. For the meeting on Thursday, is there a link that's gonna be distributed?
It's posted on bpsou.com and BSB's website and on our Facebook page.
Thank you.
Eric, did you take my new link from the Teams Live event?
Yes, I did. We took down the original link that was not Teams Live and put up the updated Teams Live link late last week, and then we added it to BSB's webpage and Facebook page this morning.
Thanks. Okay, anything else?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. I'll end it now. 2 hours.
It's a lot to get through.
Yeah.